All right, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great Labor Day. Stay tuned for What Grinds My Gears. We're going to be talking with Kristen on helmets. Even brought the Nicolas Cage bike out. Hey, good morning, everyone. Today we're going to do What Grinds My Gears here with Mototech and Cycle Gear. We have Kristen here. And everybody say hi, Kristen. And today we're going to discuss helmets. That's one of the biggest things that grinds my gears a lot is people selling used helmets online that they've either wrecked or have dropped before, and they're selling them for dirt cheap, and people are buying them and risking not only their safety but a lot of other people's safety as well by either selling them or buying them and wearing them and not knowing why, helmets that have been wrecked or helmets that have been dropped or helmets that are way too old will cause harm to you, in a case of an accident. And luckily I have Kristen here, who is a helmet expert, from Cycle Gear. As you can see, they have every helmet here. We don't carry helmets, we send everybody over here. It's just so much easier because it's a lot of science behind it, but she's gonna break it down a lot simpler on why one helmet's not gonna fit you compared to another helmet, and it's not about graphics, it's about safety and fitting. So thanks for joining us.
Yes, you're welcome. So basically, helmets are made of different materials. Your least expensive, the easiest to make is going to be a polycarbonate shell, which is most of your entry-level helmets, your Built helmets, your Bell helmets, your AGV helmets, Icon helmets. Polycarbonate is easy to make, but unfortunately it's not the best against abrasions, and so it has to be a little bit thicker to give you great protection, so you get a heavier helmet. Next up from that would be like our Sedici helmet, which is a fiberglass composite helmet. It's made of fiberglass and Kevlar. Fiberglass is lighter weight. It's more abrasion resistant, so it can be thinner, so you get a smaller shell, which is really nice, especially like me, if you have a small head. Right. You don't want to look like a bobblehead and, a helmet that only has a couple shell sizes.
Let me tell them real quick. Sorry, when she means entry level, we're not talking a cheap helmet out there. We're talking about the design of the helmet for someone that's either a daily commuter or they're just now getting into riding and they just need something that's going to protect them through DOT level. And she's going to progress through as your skill sets get better, and you either want to ride the track or you're going to start drag racing or you're going to be, unfortunately, dig racing out there or anything like that. She's going to go through all these helmets that are actually going to be better in quality. Price range, it could be cheaper when it gets higher quality, it could be less. We're just not talking about pricing, we're talking about quality and safety fitment. Okay.
Now your composite shells, as to what JP is talking about, are really your kind of best bang for the buck. You get the best price for a really good helmet that's going to protect your head better than polycarbonate.
Which one would that be?
That would be like our Sedici helmet, which is fiberglass reinforced with Kevlar. Our price range on this, you're going to pay about $220. It comes in multiple shell sizes. It has a moisture wicking liner, comfort liner on the inside, drop down sun visor, has a lot of great features to it. It's going to be lightweight, like I said. You get a smaller shell because our Sedici helmets do come in 3 different shell sizes depending on the size of your head.
Can you explain the shell sizes for them and what that means?
Sure. So basically, when a helmet is constructed, they can make different shell sizes. So like if you have for example, Shoei, extra small and small is its own shell. Then medium is its own shell. Large is its own shell. Then extra large 2X is its own shell. So you get a more custom fit. You actually get a better fit typically when there's different shell sizes. Our Built helmets, for example, use 1 shell size. Icon's entry-level helmet uses 2 shell sizes. Mm-hmm. So they have to make the padding a little bit thicker to get the helmet to fit you better. So again, you may not get the best fit that you could if you went with a helmet that had multiple
You're compromising one for another on that, in that sense, which a lot of times is not always the best thing to do.
Right. Sometimes it is price. Some people can't afford, an expensive helmet right out of the box, and we understand that. And they're all, safe. We only sell DOT helmets. But there are different levels of safety with, again, what your shell is made out of, mostly. Your high-end helmets, like your Shoei's, Nex helmets, Now, Shoei is also a composite shell, but they add carbon fiber into the mix. So you get a fiberglass, carbon fiber, and Kevlar shell. Arai uses the same technology. They're also made by hand. Fiberglass is more expensive to mold than polycarbonate, which is why carbon fiber also, it's more expensive to mold. But with carbon fiber, you get like the best of the best. Carbon fiber is the highest level of technology right now. It's super light. It's almost indestructible. But you are going to pay. You're going to pay for that technology, and you're going to pay for that lightness because of the process, and just making it is a lot more expensive than polycarbonate.
Yes, which is very true. I mean, price points based on what you want compared to going high end. And here, high end's nice if you can afford it, and all, but it's not necessary to have if you're a commuter on the street all the time, and all. So please take that in mind. We're not trying to say, hey, go get a carbon fiber $800 helmet, or the $1,500 Pista out there. Don't need those if you're not going to be making money on the back end, racing and all that.
Well, and there's lots of good compromises. Like I said, anything that really is a composite that starts with fiberglass, or like the Bell helmet. This is Bell uses what they call the MIPS. It's a multi-directional impact protective system. I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but it's a yellow lining in there that actually was created by a couple of, I believe they're Swedish guys, but what it does is it helps to disperse rotational force. So when you do crash, this polycarbonate helmet acts more like a fiberglass or composite shell. It reduces the rotational force. That yellow liner actually slides and moves a few millimeters, which can help reduce concussive damage, which you tend to get more concussive damage if you're wearing a polycarbonate shell than if you wear a composite shell or use the MIPS liner. And this is about $260. Now this is because it also comes with a transition lens, so it's a little more expensive.
Those are nice.
They are nice. You can get a good MIPS helmet for under $200 if you want to go that route and go polycarbonate.
I will say, if you can get a transition lens, my other Bell has one. My Shoei had one. I've wrecked in my Shoei at the track over at Barber. I will tell you that it will spark when you hit the asphalt and slide, but saved my head. I had no injuries. The way it's designed and everything, there's the fit with a race hump on my suit allowed my head not to flex backwards and actually hyperextend itself the opposite direction, and it took the entire impact, which was nice. I didn't even know I hit my head until I saw the pictures of sparks going outside the back of the helmet there, so which is really nice. And that's why I moved over to the Next helmet, and it's very hard to get Next helmets here in the US. They used to have them, but they're more European, but it's super duper light. That's what I like about it. But you can't get the smoke lenses or anything else like that for it unless you ship them in from overseas. One thing I do want to ask Kristen here is the difference between all helmets need to be DOT. The only thing that are not DOT are those half shells that everybody rides on the cruisers. Because of them, one, they're called a novelty, and it actually is printed inside the helmet that they are novelty helmets. They're not DOT rated or safety helmets. And why does it have to be DOT, and what is the difference between DOT, ECE, and Snell rating?
So in any state that actually has a helmet law, and there are only 3 states that have absolutely no helmet law, but in any state that has a helmet law, helmets that are sold have to be DOT approved. I know people do sell novelty helmets, but technically it's against the law. DOT is a very minimal standard. They do minimal drop tests, minimal anvil tests. Basically, they want to see if your head's going to be protected in a low impact crash. Then what ECE is the European standard. Snell is a North American standard, so you won't find Snell approval anywhere but the US. And it's an independent foundation that was started after a guy's friend got in a horrible motorcycle crash, and he said there's got to be a better way to test helmets. ECE and Snell do higher wind tunnel or faster wind tunnel tests, higher drop tests, stronger anvil tests. They actually do testing on the shield, and if the shield cracks during the testing, it doesn't pass Snell approval. So those are always a higher level, and it's nice. A lot of our helmets are ECE and DOT. Snell won't look at anything that has a drop-down sun visor or modular helmets, so Snell approval is a little bit harder to get. The helmet has to be one solid shell.
No cuts enough for the visor to
Nope.
come through because you're breaking up the foam packing and everything inside it.
Yeah. So if you really want the best protection, something that has Snell approval or even ECE is going to be better than just DOT. Not that DOT is bad.
No.
We've had people crash in DOT helmets
Yep.
and they've survived, and that's great. But
Yep.
if you want something a little bit more peace of mind, you want to go ECE or Snell as well.
Right, and just when it's ECE rated, it is the equivalency to Snell rating here in the U.S. So if you are a track rider, whether it's drag strip or road track, either way, if yours says ECE on the back and it is stamped with an ECE rated number on the back, it is equivalent to a Snell rating here in the U.S. So you can ride it on the track for racing purposes, or if you're Snell rated, you can use Snell rating in the ECE or the European moto area, motor racing aspect there. I know Tristan has a shell here, so she can show you the shell and the impact linings, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth on what those are.
So this is actually a rejected Arai shell. Showing Arai again, they're made by hand. At any point in the process, if one of the guys who are making these shells decide that something's wrong with it or it doesn't meet specs, they just throw it away. The companies are great, they let them do their thing. You can see it's made of fiberglass, and then inside you can see the Kevlar and carbon fiber lacing. JP right here, this is a cutaway of basically it's a polystyrene foam that protects, it's your big EPS liner protection. This is the part that typically you really can't see unless you take out the padding. There's different densities on this. Like JP is just kind of squeezing it around the neck. It's going to be harder. Up at the top, it's a little bit softer. You can actually get your fingerprints in it. But this is what is the main thing that protects your head from damage, along with the shell. Fiberglass shells, when they take an impact, tend to crack, which is good because it disperses that impact over a wider area of your head, which is good for your brain. Whereas polycarbonate, if you take an impact, it tends to be more of like an impact right in that spot, which can cause brain bleeds, concussions, stuff like that you typically don't see as much with composite shell helmets.
Right. And then the biggest thing everybody talks about is this 5 years, 5-year rating on a helmet. Okay. So manufacturers out there, a lot of them do state 5 years. All right. So the 5 years is kind of a loosely term. It's almost like saying it's organic, like in the FDA world. All right. So the 5-year span means it's either 5 years from the time that you opened the package and started utilizing it within its time frame, or the 5-year lifespan of the helmet based on how much usage you've used it. I want to let Kristen go a little bit more in depth on that for you guys.
Yeah, so Shoei and Arai actually state that you can go 7 years from the date of manufacture or 5 years when you first start using the helmet. And it's also based on how much you use the helmet. If you're a casual rider and you don't use your helmet that much over the 5 years, you probably can go a little beyond that, because things that affect it are like sweat, body cells, these kind of things will affect the comfort. It goes through the comfort liner and it goes into the EPS liner, and it can start to deteriorate the helmet. Obviously, if you drop the helmet, if you crash in the helmet, you want to replace your helmet. You don't want to go the 5 to 7 years. And also sometimes the way that helmets are produced. So some of your polycarbonate helmets that may not be your highest end helmets may need to be replaced more than 5 years, again, depending on use. If you're an everyday rider, you're sweating in that helmet, it's going to get stretched out a little bit quicker. You're going to deteriorate the liner sooner. So you might want to think about replacing it sooner than 5 years.
Yep. And if you have questions, you can always either swing by Mototech or Cycle Gear. We're more than welcome to help you out with any information. Drop testing, meaning if it's dropped 3 feet or more, and it's recommended you replace it. Just the fact that the impacting, no matter where you impact on the helmet itself, the foam packing on the inside actually impacts as well. If you can see a dimple right here, that is a hard point compared to the nice soft impact in here. And that's what it's made for. When it hits in there and it absorbs the impact force there and disperses that sheer kinetic energy that you just hit around, so that way you don't have a singular point on your head that's hitting concrete. But now that it's been impacted, now it is hard like concrete. So if you hit that again, it doesn't compress like it would when it's normal on the outside. You're hitting a harder piece right there. So it doesn't disperse that energy as much, and it actually focalizes it better or more into that spot, into where your head's going to impact. So that's why they say replace your helmets after you wreck or if you dropped your helmet. And do you have to? Like, is it by law you have to do that? No, it's based on your peace of mind and comfort to do that. I understand having a $600-700 helmet, you know, a $300 helmet or an $800 helmet here, and you dropped it, and the day you bought it, you put it on your seat and it fell right off. You know, like, man, I don't want to have to buy another one. It's just recommended to do that because it's your brain, not ours, that we have to worry about out there. And
now,
also,
Shoei does say, if you read the little booklet that comes with your helmet, it does say that if the helmet takes a low-level drop, that it is made to take a drop with a head in it, so that if it is a low-level drop, the helmet may be okay, and actually you can send your helmet to Shoei and they will inspect it and x-ray it and let you know. But again, if you want to take that chance, you can. It's personal preference at that point. You know, no one's going to force you to get a new helmet. It's just, how much do you value your brain? You know, like.
Some of us out there, I don't know.
And another cool thing, you can always check if you do drop your helmet, or take out the comfort liner, they unsnap, and then take a look at the EPS liner. I just learned this today. The EPS liner is actually painted black so that if you see any white cracks in that liner or white spots, that means that is a spot where that EPS liner has taken some kind of damage, and that would mean it's time to replace the helmet.
Also, hopefully you guys got a lot of information. There is a ton of helmets here at Cycle Gear. That's why we always send everybody over here. The last one we're going to cover is fitment. How do you know it actually properly fits you the right way, not only based on how comfortable it is, but how safe it's going to be when your head impacts on the ground? Okay.
So one of the things, a loose-fitting helmet has been linked to traumatic brain injury. So you want to make sure that helmet has a really snug fit. I have big cheeks. I have a small head. So in my size small Shoei, I look like a chipmunk. Like, even though the padding is broken in a little, it's still very snug on my cheeks, but that's a good fit for me. And there's also different shaped helmets. AGV, their K3 is actually considered a round oval on the inside. Most helmets made in North America are an intermediate oval, because 80% of North Americans, that's our head shape, is intermediate oval. Icon does some long ovals, as does Arai, actually does all three shapes. So when you're trying on a helmet, you want to pull out the straps, make sure you're getting a nice wide
They're made to
over
stretch.
your head.
Your helmet is made to stretch
Yeah.
open. So that way when you go over, you're not trying to pull straight down. You're pulling out and allowing it to slide on easily.
And you have to think about, you're pulling the smallest part of your helmet over the biggest part of your head, so it is going to be snug. You want your cheeks, we tell people, a good fitting helmet when you first buy it, if you were chewing gum, you'd bite the inside of your cheeks. That is really how snug you want it. You just don't want it to be a lot of pressure or hot spots or feel like it's going to give you a headache on the top of your head, because that is really not going to break in a whole lot. The cheeks are going to break in a little. The more you sweat, the more you wear it. If, like me, again, you have big cheeks, you're not going to get a lot of break-in, but that's a good fitting helmet. You want it to be nice and snug. You don't want to be able to twist your head in the helmet. And really, that's what protects your brain, is a good, snug fitting helmet is going to be the best protection. You know, women may have to take out their earrings. Some men may have to take out their earrings, but it's worth it to get a helmet that fits right.
I agree. And we're doing fitment, doing the arm check to be able to turn your head side to side. If the corners of your eyes actually start hitting the foam packing side to side, that's not going to be a good fit for you.
Also, a lot of people try on helmets, and there's room to get fingers between the helmet and your forehead. Again, that's not a good fitting helmet. If there's any gaps, it may be the wrong shape for your head. If you're not an intermediate oval, like I said, there are companies that make long ovals and round ovals, and you may not be able to get the helmet that you really want because it just may not be the right shape for you.
Right. So remember, it's not always about graphics. It's not the coolest helmet out there. Now, it's nothing wrong with having the coolest helmet out there. You can bring it along, put it on the back, show it off, but you really want a properly fitted helmet for your head, whether it's entry level or all the way up to the high-end, high experience level helmets. I would call it experience in a sense for that. But if you have any questions, you can call here. You can come by here. That you can try on helmets. They're allowed to try helmets.
Yes, we are sanitizing helmets in between customers. We have some great sanitizer, so you don't have to feel afraid to come and try on helmets, because that's really the only way to get a good fitting helmet is to try it on.
And once you know which brand and model of that brand fits your head, you can always buy that helmet multiple times when you need to. But remember, they do change based on the model of the, like AGV makes a couple of different models. They have K1, K3s, K5s, and the Pistas, and a couple other ones on there, and they're not all going to fit. You can have an AGV K3 and it won't fit like a K5. I'll tell you that. I know that one for a fact because I have both of them.
And the K6, which is AGV's carbon fiber and Kevlar helmet, which is super light. This one, again, the K3 is a round oval. The K6 is an intermediate oval. Shoei, pretty much all of their helmets are intermediate oval. Again, Arai does all three shapes. Shark helmets, they're mostly round ovals. Icons are mostly long ovals, but they did introduce a couple intermediate ovals recently. So every brand has different shapes too within that brand. So you really got to try them on.
I would. And if you have helmets, stop by one of our shops, either hers or mine. Just bring it by. We can tell you if that helmet is built for you, like if your head fits it properly, because you just never know. You know, somebody may have sold you a helmet saying it works great, but it might be way too big or it might be way too small. And if it's way too small and you're wondering why you have headaches all the time, or your facial muscles and your scalp is so sore all the time, it's probably because you have an ill-fitted helmet on there. They're supposed to be really comfortable for a long distance ride is what you want them for.
Something to think about too is a lot of people will buy used helmets, or they'll get a used helmet with a bike. You really don't want to do that, because even if it's the right size for your head, if JP and I wore the same size helmet, once he's had it on, it is going to start to conform and fit to his head, and the pads are going to wear in to fit to his head. So if I put that helmet on, even if we wear the exact same size, exact same head shape, his old helmet is not going to fit my head in the right way. I know sometimes it seems great, you know, someone's only used it a couple times or whatever, but that's something you really want to think about, is that helmet is now going to be conformed to somebody else's head and may not fit your head the way it's meant to.
Right. And also, it's all about safety here. If you did buy a used helmet off someone, you can always buy pads. If you just don't want to buy another helmet, and and you feel that your helmet that you bought from your buddy is safe enough for your well-being based on your own personal feelings on there, buy some new pads, and that way at least you have something to start fresh with on the inside there. And we're a big advocate of buying new helmets and not used ones. And if you wrecked, buy a new helmet, because everybody's intelligent out there, and we all want to stay that way. And also, if you have any questions, please call Kristen here at Cycle Gear. You have a bunch of other employees here that work here. I'd name them all off, but there's just so many on that. Or you can come by the shop, you can call me, and we'll answer whatever we have here. And any more stuff you want to push out to them?
No, I want to say to you, it's not about buying the most expensive helmet or buying the least expensive helmet. It really is about getting what is the best helmet for you, the way you ride, what you're using it for, how it fits. And it may be the most expensive helmet, or it may be one of the least expensive helmets. It's really about a custom fit for you, and that's what we want to do here at Cycle Gear. And I know JP is in agreement on that.
Yep. And also, you may not get the greatest graphic you ever wanted, but you're guaranteed to get a helmet that's going to not only save your life if you ever go down. We've had so many wrecks lately so far, and it's not even just the rider causing the wrecks. Other people out there are causing wrecks and all. The one thing you always you'll get on like almost 90% of all the ones out there, it's never been a head injury that the person suffered, whether they made it through the accident or they didn't. They always show that there's never been a head injury associated with it. And that's the biggest thing that we do want to push when it comes to helmets. And we want you to be able to still be able to think and articulate and everything else while having the best quality on your head. Not the most expensive or the cheapest out there. It's the best quality that's for you, that fits right. All right. So if you have any questions, like I said, give us a call over here and we'll help you out. Chris, I want to thank you for your time. And I'll hope you guys all have a safe Labor Day out there. And I'll ride safe, keep your head on a swivel. And they're open today. I'm not. But they're open today, so you can swing by here. All right. Thanks, guys.